All right, guys, our next guest is the number seventh ranked middleweight in the UFC at 25 years old. He is the man of the people in Australia and New Zealand with wins over Uriah Hall, Rafael Natal, and now taking on a big challenge at UFC Melbourne on November 27th as he takes on Derek Brunson. Robert Whittaker, welcome back to Submission Radio. It's good to have you back on the program, man.
No, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great when you come back, and it's been a while. I mean, what a week it's been for you. Before we actually get into the excitement of UFC Melbourne, it's become almost customary for us to talk gaming. So tell us, have there been any new additions to the gaming collection since the last time we spoke?
Additions, I don't know. I'm kind of a dude that plays the same games in a loop. The current phase was Fallout till last week, and now I'm playing Season 7 in D3 again. I think we spoke about that last time, like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, when you won in, I believe it was Adelaide, you were playing Civ and you were playing Diablo 3. So not much has changed. You're still the same guy, still Diablo 3.
Yeah, but like I stopped for a big period. It just doesn't seem like that now.
Well, we know you're primarily a PC gamer, but does Robert Whittaker also get down on console, or is it just PC or nothing at the moment?
I definitely play console when, nothing beats a good, when you get your mates over in a good split screen and you're trying to bash each other on sports games. Like nothing beats that. You can play online all you want, but there's a certain satisfaction to like whooping your mate in FIFA and then dancing around the room in front of him.
Of course, we know it all too well. You've obviously got an awesome family. For those listening at home, what is the biggest secret to maintaining a healthy gaming life while having to, keep the family and obviously the girlfriend or the wife happy? Because we're the kind of addicts where we could sit down easily for half a day and play games, but it just doesn't really work out well for us. What's your secret? Well, there is none. She's unhappy.
Yeah, I know. I cough it just as much as the next man. I think there's just got to be a balance. My wife knows that I love gaming and that's what I do to relax and unwind and whatnot. But I also know that I can't do it constantly. And if it's date night, the chances of me blowing her off isn't going to happen.
Yeah, how good is it when you get an afternoon off from work? Everybody knows this listening right now, and the girlfriend or wife is out. House is all yours. And the gaming is ready and available for you to have. I mean, there's no better feeling. I know I go through that sometimes. But let's talk about what's been going on, Rob, because a lot of fun things have been going on for a few weeks now. Every MMA water cooler has been surrounded by talks of what's next for Robert Whittaker. What did you think when you heard the Anderson Silva rumors? Was it tough not to get a little bit sucked into the possibility of fighting the legend?
Yeah, like a bit, like it was like a fleeting thought because, the middleweight division at the moment is completely tied up, and it's chaotic. Everyone's fighting everyone. But then I did some maths and like there's no way they're going to afford to put Anderson Silva on a fight night.
I mean, obviously it didn't happen, but, just to clarify, was this fight ever on the table? Did anybody, it sounds like they didn't, but did anybody approach your management about it? And, did maybe you even try and, even though it seemed a little bit unlikely on your end, did you maybe try and push for it?
I've been asking to fight everyone since the last fight. It's just, like I said, the division's really tied up and people are quite busy. So yeah, I wasn't approached by anyone. So I'm sure they have things in the works, months out. They just love keeping us in the dark and keeping us guessing.
Did you sort of expect, obviously, the winner of Derek Brunson or Uriah Hall? I mean, well, let's be honest, you wouldn't be facing Uriah Hall again. You already beat the man. But did you expect that it was going to sort of come down to Derek Brunson, or were there any other names that you thought, all right, here's another likely possibility?
As soon as I saw Derek Brunson beat Uriah the way he did, I knew it was going to be Derek. He's got another 10 weeks until he has to fight me. He comes off a win with almost no injuries. Another fight camp, another bonus. Plus, I'm ranked ahead of him. It's just another way for him to get a foothold higher up in the rankings. And who doesn't want to come to Australia?
Yeah, it's great over here. We've got we've got some good beers, some nice beaches, a lot of things going on. Let's talk about that Brunson fight then. You obviously got a chance to watch his win over Uriah Hall. If you saw him win and realized that you might be fighting him, what did you think of the fight? A lot of people thought it was stopped a little early, but what did you think of his win over Uriah Hall?
There wasn't much to it. He just loaded up on that left hand and Uriah ate it. I think if anyone were to eat his left hand like that, I think most people would get hurt. He looks good. He looked dangerous. He looks like he's got a lot of power. He looks athletic, and I really look forward to scrapping with him.
Yeah, as are we. I mean, Derek's one of those guys who he's really good, but he doesn't obviously have the name value yet of, say, a Michael Bisping or Luke Rockhold. Was there any concern on your part at all that this is another tough test with a guy that people don't really know that well?
Yeah, like a lot of people, I've had this question before, and I'm not too worried really. It is what it is. I'm in the game to gain experience, to better myself as a fighter, and the only way to do that is by fighting, by taking hard fights, whether a big name or not. I'm going to get there. I want to be the best fighter in the world, and I'm not going to be the best fighter in the world by saying no to certain fights and trying to, plan my trip all the way up. I want to get there in a sea of blood, if you would.
You fought Rafael Natal and beat him. That was another tough guy that a lot of people may have not known, but you got a great, sweet victory over him. Are you sort of comfortable now in being in this position where you're fighting? You mentioned it just before, but fighting these guys where it doesn't seem like you've got as much to gain as to lose if you lose against them. Are you sort of comfortable in being in that position and taking these super tough fights before you get to these super fights, which we're sure is soon in your future?
Like in my opinion, I have nothing to lose either. I got to where I am now on my own back, and that comes from the skill sets that I've developed. And by taking fights and preparing for fights, I'm just furthering that skill set. I never once think I'm in a position that's precarious, that's fragile, where at any time I can fall off the mantle. I'm here to stay, and I think I've proved that by now.
Well, obviously this is going to be a can't miss matchup. Talk to us about, stylistically wise, break it down. When you look at Brunson's skill set, what advantages do you see that you have over him in this fight?
I see myself completely at an advantage. I know my own skill sets, and I know his. He's good at wrestling, and he's got a powerful left hand. And it's not just his left hand; it's just the way he loads on it. I think if anyone loaded up like that with that amount of strength and that amount of power, he's going to put people away. I'm not worried though. I'm just as aggressive as him, and I hit just as hard. And I really look forward to meeting up with him and see how he likes getting hit.
Yeah. What do you think about the fact that this fight is going to take place in Melbourne? Because obviously you being an Aussie, it makes a lot of sense. But in other ways, it seems like the UFC trying to build you up and really build your star. You had that fight at UFC 197 against Rafael Natal in Las Vegas. Did you have a preference at all? I mean, obviously fighting in hometown is great, but was part of you kind of like, well, I'd love to get more exposure overseas?
I love fighting at home. I absolutely love it. Nothing beats fighting in front of a home crowd and not having to travel at least 20-something hours to fight. But I love fighting overseas as well. I do. It's just expensive to go over there. There's a lot of little expenses that comes and they come along with fighting overseas. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to be in a position to not have to spend a lot of money to go on these fight tours to fight people overseas and gain the experience I need. But if it's in my own backyard, why not?
Well, speaking of fighting in your backyard, many people have forgotten that you were actually supposed to fight Michael Bisping at UFC 193. Got to get your thoughts, Rob. What do you think of him as the new champion? And do you like this UFC 204 matchup between him and Dan Henderson?
I like it in a sense that I'm a fan of Hendo. So, I like it in that sense. I don't like it in a sense where UFC just, pick whoever they want to fight whoever they want. But, it's not up to me. I'm just here to fight, and I try not to get involved in all that sort of stuff.
It's an interesting situation because we've spoken about this with a few fighters. We actually mentioned it to Luke Rockhold this week. But what do you think about this whole thing of Dan Henderson saying, look, if I win, I'm still going to retire, even if I'm become the champion? Do you think it sort of puts things in a, I guess, strange situation where now you got to figure out who's going to become the champion, what's going to happen, that kind of situation?
Not really, because I honestly look at the top 10 middleweight division as it is now, and every single person up there has a chance, has the potential to be champ, and So if Dan Hendo, like, and I'd have to see Hendo go through with that. It's one thing saying it and then holding the gold and being like, you know what, this is kind of cool. Um, but yeah, if that happens, then I think it's just up for grabs. I think it's up for grabs always anyway. I think it's been up for grabs right now even. You know, yeah. So that's how I feel on it.
Well, I mean, speaking of things being up for grabs, Derek Brunson, he was pretty confident that after his win over Uriah Hall, it seemed like, he would have liked a title shot. He got you instead. But if you beat him, obviously you are going to be taking a lot of his momentum. Where do you think that sort of puts you in the division in relation to the title and a title shot?
I'd like to go for a shot after Brunson, but I'm not. I'm not one to look past Brunson. I'm not one to make plans before I even fight a guy. All my focus is on Brunson, and if I take that for granted and I look past him, I'm going to get hurt.
Well, you actually fought on the same card as Rockhold in Sydney. That was your first jump to middleweight. What do you think about being on the same card as him and Souza? And that there's also a very real chance that you may fight one of them depending on who wins and loses.
I love it. I really like Luke, and he's a top bloke. He was nice to me the first time, and he was nice to me last weekend as well when he came down. And yeah, I like him. I like being on the same cards as him. He's an exciting fighter to fight. I think that's going to be an amazing fight to watch, and I can't wait.
You know why he's nice to you? Because obviously you didn't see that video of you head kicking him in EA UFC 2.
I didn't see that.
So no one saw it. Well, there we go. Well, be honest with us, Rob. Are you at all disappointed that you're not headlining this card? Because us and many fans thought that, given obviously you being an Aussie and being high up the middleweight rankings, there was a good chance you would be.
Am I disappointed? Not really. I would have liked to have headlined the card, but I never got my hopes up for it. You know what I mean? It is what it is, and I'm just happy to be there. I'm just happy to fight, and happy I'm going to put it on a show regardless of where I'm placed in the card.
There's an interesting theory going around at the moment, and we'd like for you to weigh in on it. If Bisping loses to Henderson at UFC 204 and Dan does retire, does that technically mean Rockhold versus Souza becomes a title match, since many believe the fight is the title eliminator?
I have no idea. Like, if UFC want it to be like that, it will be, or anything. UFC do what they want. They've shown that.
Yeah, obviously they are the big bosses. All right, well, it's still a little away, but everyone's excited. What's going to happen between now and then? Will you be bringing any new training partners or coaches? Will it be an identical camp to last time in Sydney, or will you be going around to a new gym? Give us the scoop, Rob. Obviously, you trained with Henry Perez. What's the latest there?
I have the best coaching staff that I've ever had. I have my same head coach, striking coach, Henry Perez, and I have my wrestling coach and high performance coach, Fabricio Whittaker. I have my grappling coach, Alex Prates, and those three are the core of my team. But I've also incorporated, I don't know since the last time I've spoken to you, but I have a strength and conditioning coach that helped me with my movement training and my gymnastic strength in Justin Lang, and I've also picked up some boxing from Justin Fitzgerald, and also still doing a lot of sparring and kickboxing with the McKinnons at Bulldog Gym, and across the board, they're masters and experts in their field. So I'm pretty comfortable with where I stand on my coaching staff. And, I've been getting the results. I've been training hard and I've been getting better and I'm getting the results. And that's really all you can ask for, right?
I mean, last time we spoke to you was at UFC Brisbane. Talk to us about Justin Lang. He's obviously come in and done your movement and gymnastics and strength and conditioning. Did you ever have any strength and conditioning coach prior to that? And what have you sort of noticed as the difference since having him? And when did you get him in?
I think I've got him in the last year or so. And yeah, I've had strength and conditioning coaches prior to that. I did strong, like a bit of, at a strongman gym doing strength and barbell work. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I got introduced to Justin, and then he presented his ideas to me. He ran me through some stretches and some flexibility and some movement strength and whatnot. And I don't know. I just took to it, and I think that's the biggest thing. You got to enjoy it, and it's got to make sense to you. So yeah.
All right, Rob. Well, before we let you go, we have to get a prediction. How do you see yourself winning at UFC Melbourne? Give us the scoop. How's it happening?
I'm gonna hit him. I'm gonna hit him, and he's gonna go down. I think he's going around spouting it's gonna be a first round finish, and I think it will be. I just don't think it's gonna be the way he wants it to be.
Well, there you go, guys. Exciting times. We can't wait. The fight is really, in a lot of ways, just around the corner. It's going to be happening on November 27th here in Melbourne, Australia, at the beautiful and amazing Rod Laver Arena. You guys make sure to follow Rob on Twitter at RJWhitaker1990 to catch up on all the latest goss and the scoops on all of his updates. Rob, it's always a pleasure having you on the show, man. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me, guys, honestly.